Idui Crystal Vin. Good morning, uh, my stranger people. I'm Ron, and welcome to this nonsense. So, hopefully, I'm not being too quiet, but I'm at the local Barnes and Noble, finishing up a skirt I've been working on for a while. I had to order extra yarn, but I'm going to um, I'm testing something out, so I thought might as well um, see testing something out. So it's going to be just like kind of like piddly and stupid right now, but apologies for not having shaved in a bit, but I think I'll do that tonight before bed. So buttons and dun, 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 dun.
Hey there, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well.
No, I'm not.
Unfortunately, this video today is going to be one that's coming from, well, it was originally going from a place of deep anger. But as I sit here now, ready to film, I am realizing now it's more going to be coming from a place of hurt.
Right. So, for those who are not in the know, Jessie Gender released this like about a month ago, a month or so. I don't know, a little over a month, less than 2 months. Going by how crap, by how YouTube has the fuzzy timeline thing nonsense. So yeah. Uh, Anger and hurt. All right, that's a great way to start off a video of this topic, isn't it?
And a bit of sadness, and hopefully a bit of hope
Right.
at the end. But the predominant feeling I'm feeling right now is just kind of hurt. And I feel a need to discuss what has happened over the past week, because it is deeply frustrating, angering, and frankly disappointing, the events that have recently occurred. And to give you a clue in on what it's about, surrounding my film Identities, which as many of you may know already is the
Not to be a complete uh, donkey in this, but I really hate the name of this film. I really do.
science fiction film that I am currently working on, that is being distributed by Nebula, that is going to be very queer and trans focused, and is being made by a predominantly queer and trans crew, along with many other marginalized folks, including BIPOC and women, behind the scenes and in front of the camera as well. And it's something that I am deeply excited about and proud of, not just for myself, but the amazing work that people have put on for this production. And unfortunately, a situation has recently occurred surrounding that has been just deeply angering, and I talk about it. And to be clear what the problem is, before we get into the nitty-gritty in just a moment,
By the end of this, you're going to wonder to yourself why people had to know about this now. Like, why does she think people need to know about this now?
It is the very, very frustrating, angering, disrespectful, and unprofessional of my film identity, my independent film identities by SAG-aftra.
If you've been watching all the nonsense surrounding Jessie Gender on Twitter this last year, 2023 especially, you're going to realize that Jessie is, if you remember watching her, like this 2023 in specific, but over the last year and some in general, Jessie is not the most reliable narrator. She talks a lot about empathy and community, but at the end of the day, Jessie only really displays when it is to her own advantage. That that she is more than willing to twist the narrative to suit her own goals. And so take her account with a pinch of salt.
But before I get into all of that, something I just want to say right up front, and it'll be kind of obvious to say this up front in just a minute when I get into the meat of what happened, but to be very, very clear, I support the WGA and SAG-aftra strikes against the Hollywood studio system. I support...
By the end of this video, if you have not watched it already and have not come to the same sorts of thoughts about it that I have already, you're again going to find this suspect because Jessie Gender has a history of being very self-serving, and it is of my opinion, without any spoilers yet so far, that Jessie supports the strike as long as it will allow her to meet her own goals. That her career, she will at least vocally support something. She might even literally go out onto the picket line, as she has made very carefully to. I did a stupid. As I've made very clear, or as she has made very clear in, in like posting photographic evidence, of herself doing this, because it will at this point in time help her career. At this point, I have seen no other reason to think otherwise.
All of the workers, actors, writers, and numerous other artists who are fighting right now against a studio system that refuses to acknowledge their humanity, to be able to allow them to be able to live comfortably, to be able to pursue their art, their humanity in a way that is comfortable, safe, and enabling of them being able to pursue that passion, and instead manages to take all the money that this labor, that this art, that this passion creates, and often hoard it at the top for the CEOs and executives in charge, who I'm not going to say are irrelevant to the process of making, are certainly not the heart and soul of it, because the heart and soul is out there right now on the strike line. And I also want to be very clear that I myself personally have been and will continue to be on the strike line. I've shown up a couple times already. I plan on being there numerous more times, and I will continue to be very vocal in my support. Someone who realizes that their fight is not just a fight for them, but a fight for all of labor and the working class, and is just an element of a larger fight that is going on right now in the United States and the world.
Then why are you making this video and releasing it now? why did you film this on the day that, on the exact day that much of the events that you have relayed within this video, why did you film this same day? Why did you decide to release this, rather than, you know, review it later, go back, say, okay, maybe I should revise this, and this. Maybe I should just rewrite the whole thing. Or you know what? Maybe I should just put this on hold until a time when it cannot be used as ammo by anti labor forces, right? Why can't I just, you know, as you see, like there's a lot of entitlement in the way Jessie went through the motions to write and release this video at the time she did. It is very entitled. It is very self-serving.
I will also continue to support them, not just by showing up on a platform here on YouTube, as well as by trying to follow all of the guidelines that SAG-aftra has outlined for influencers that I sort of fall under. And speaking on that, I've already done a video on my secondary channel with WGA writer Bill Wolkoff, where we talked about a lot of the issues pertaining to the strike. I have a video coming out on Monday on my secondary channel also about the strike. And also my podcast Jumpgate, which is a Babylon 5 rewatch podcast, will be shifting gears to not be focusing on Babylon 5 while the strike is going on, considering that Babylon 5 is a past production from a struck company at the moment. So I want my current, ongoing, and planned continuation of those unions and their fight to be very, very clear before I get into the rest of this video. With that said, unfortunately, the situation that I have been alluding to revolves around the treatment of my production identities by the bureaucracy and administration at SAG-aftra. So to reiterate, like I said, I have been working on a production identities, which is
the bureaucracy that was put in place by the members of the union to take care of, certain office things and whatever. I mean, I'm not saying bureaucracy is always good or even always necessary, but when you're talking about a union of this size, you have to have people in the office that will, that will take care of certain duties. And under a strike, it is best to assume that shit is bananas right now, that mistakes will be made. Potentially very egregious, potentially hurtful, but unintentional mistakes will be made. That a lot of files will get shuffled around. Some things might be lost in the shuffle, if only temporarily. Again, if you are coming at this from a place of empathy, you will understand that this is the middle of a strike. Shit is bananas. That this is not all about you. That this is not a personal slight against you. That that this is not a personal direct attack. That this is a situation where things can get very hectic. But okay.
a honest-to-God passion project of mine. It is a very queer and trans film, but a film about how, many people, not just queer and trans people, many people, even non-marginalized identities, are never allowed to express ourselves in the systems that try to force us to be a certain way, to exist a certain way. And part of the reason I'm so passionate about this project is not just the story that I get to tell.
Yeah, the main reason we're so passionate about this project is because, as you have teased in community tab posts that I am finally no longer getting notifications of, as I, stopped, as I unsubscribed from Jessie's channel, I want to say like April of this year. And it took me the longest ass time of like telling YouTube, like, please don't recommend. But, up until like maybe early August, I was getting this constant barrage of, recommended community tab post from Jessie Gender, wherein she is practically bragging about having um, John Delancey, who, as many people may about my age and older may remember, played Q on Star Trek: The Next Generation. hmm Yeah, this is about Jessie Gender, you know, getting getting a Star Trek actor into her little vanity project so that she can be like biggest nerd girl on on YouTube.
But the people who are working on it. As I said, it is a cast and crew predominantly made of queer and trans and other marginalized folks. It was an express goal of me and my producer, Dr. Aaron McDonald.
Just in case you might not have believed me when I said John Delancey right here. But yeah, sure. Um, oh god, that's right. Dumb shit. Abigail Thorne is in this too. So.
To make sure that that was the case. Also, to reiterate, this production is a completely independent production system. It is being feed and distributed by Nebula, which is a streaming service, but a streaming service that is owned by the YouTube creators.
Until I looked up, Nebula like structures their subscription services. For the longest ass time this year, Jessie Gender's been like the number one person to discourage me from subscribing to Nebula. But what's his name? Joel Scott. I don't know, the dude who does like the science and history little like half-hour max videos. I love him, and excuse me. And so like when I noticed that my subscription would like directly um would directly support him, I was just like, oh sure, like somebody that I don't have an issue with in some way, shape, or form. Okay, sweet, I'll do it that way. But yeah, like for the longest ass time, Jessie Gender was like the number one reason I was not subscribing to Nebula because she's not a good person.
And the artists that help make it up, as well as the fact that the people who work at Nebula, and I do not speak for them, but I know that they echo this sentiment, are also in huge support of the WGA and SAG strikes. Dave, who is the CEO of Nebula, or state and helps lead Nebula, he has repeatedly done video casts supporting the WGA and SAG-aftra strikes, has donated money as well. So everyone at Nebula supports those strikes. And again, to be very clear, no association with the studio system. This is a completely independent production being made. However, that being said, we also knew that as we were entering into production months ago, that these strikes were looming on the horizon. We knew that they were possibly going to be a thing, and we knew that it was going to be a very hectic time in Hollywood for everybody, even those who weren't part of the studio system. Which is why, considering we are using SAG actors, we have many wonderful. I'm so honored and excited to be working with and have worked with, doing different stuff, prepping for the film, again following SAG-aftra guidelines. In that, we knew that we wanted to kind of get ahead of that. So several months ago, and I repeat and reiterate, months ago, we submitted all of our paperwork to SAG, what they qualified as an ultra low budget production. There's numerous different levels to sort of be aware of for this discussion. Is ultra low budget production and short production, which is sort of the level right below that. And our production sort of skirted the line of sort of in between those two levels. The sort of line for between ultra low budget and short production is you have to have a 50K budget. If you're above a 50K budget, they can 50K.
Oh my God,
it's short, as well as your production being less than 40 minutes. I believe is the line. Our production is literally right on the line. My script is literally like right at 40 minutes. We start right here, I believe, and it's very dialogue heavy, which also shortens it down. That to not resubmit as a short production, but to wait until the week of 26, which is the week that I'm currently filming this, where we would, as a short film project and being given permission to, we were also asked by our representative to not submit anywhere unless we were expressly asked to, which included an interim agreement to be able to film during a strike and everything like that. We had everything in order, and we were told at that time that to not resubmit as a short production, but to wait until the week of July 26th, which is the week that I'm currently filming this, where we would be adjudicated as a short.
Okay, so here we go. What I previously said, it's close to true. So this all happened at the very least week of, like, I've seen other people say it was okay that this happened like day of, certain um, office bureaucracy happened, and I take that at face value, or I took that at face value at the, up until right now. So it might have been like a day or two later, but still, it's like, you'd think that if you are supporting the strikers, wouldn't you want to like run this by a few people from the union? Wouldn't you want to just to like, you'd think like, I mean, she's since gone on Twitter after this last week when, but and said, like, no, I shouldn't have to sit on my hands until it's convenient for the strike. Um, you know what? Let me do pull up on incognito tab on Twitter because she likes to uh, she likes to block people who um, what's it called? Twitter her for any reason. Yeah, who criticize her for any reason at all. Okay, let's see. The thingy. Opening up the. Am I even logged into Twitter on my laptop? Nobody knows. I'll find out. Possibly. No. No, looks like I might be. Uh, yep, okay, here we go. Yes, okay. Share here instead, but um, right click. You know what? Hold on. There you go. Okay. Right click. Open in private window. Okay. Yes. Share this instead. Load up. Before. You have my email alerts showing on the thing. Okay, so let's see. Tomatoes. Okay, wait. I can search unless I'm logged in. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Um, wait. Why is this all bullshit? Uh, okay, January 6th. Oh, don't shit. January 6th. November 30th, 2022. Um, what the hell? Replies? Something went wrong tracking it. Are you serious? Okay, whatever. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Let me try it. Try this a different way. Uh, oh. Oh, poopy. Okay. Wait. Dang it. Okay, look here. Haha. Okay. Okay, so I guess like private things on the thing are not allowed. Okay, well, I don't know what the heck is going on with her twittering, but okay, so that's the thing there, and this is the thing here. There we go. Okay, now back to this nonsense.
Short film project and being given permission to go ahead and film. We were also represented to not submit any new paperwork unless we were expressly asked to, which included an interim agreement to be able to film during a strike, which a short production, but also loaded as a short film project. If we knew we were going to, we would have submitted it literally months ago. At the time that the strike started, we would have been more than happy to do that. We were expressly told not to indicate a short that would not require that. So with that, we have gone forward with production, and it has been, I cannot tell you how cool the work that people have done on this film is. Shout out to the musicians, the composers that we've been working with. I just had a meeting earlier about that. Our production designers, our cinematographer, like just everyone on this production has been amazing and has just been kicking ass, creating cool stuff. Director, it's been such a learning experience to me to learn that part of making film is not, oh, this is Jessie's film, this is Jessie's vision, but to really enable that spirit of collaboration. It's about being the leader who is there to enable other people's artistry and passion, and hope that I created something that has a strong enough voice in it that people's artistry and visions and their own sort of creativity sort of adds into it and builds upon it. But that ultimately my job is to facilitate their creativity and fight for their ability to express their creativity in terms of fighting against the budget and fighting against the other systems and forces that we have to go against, time, problem solving, and just doing my best to enable them. And then it's my job, my producer, Dr. Aaron McDonald, to say what's realistically possible and fight for the production on the sort of realistic angle and this sort of the nitty gritty numbers angle. And me as a wonderful experience to learn and just to see and be in meetings with people just excited saying, oh, here's the costumes that I have, here's the cool things that I'm making, the actors that I've been able to work with, and just like Maggie Mae Fish and James Tyson, who I did some rehearsals with in person, and it was just so cool to just see that creativity just coming out. I love this stuff. I am so passionate about this. And so we've been going forward with all of that, following SAG guidelines as well. So we tamped down rehearsals and things as the strike started to try and follow their guidelines as best we can, given all the situation, even when our production may not have even needed to abide by those we did. So all of that's been going forward. We are now currently 2 weeks out from filming.
Okay,
we were literally planning to approval from SAG. We've had big companies big support us during all of this, even when I know that they were experiencing a lot of troubles given the strike. So I want to be clear that we have been given so much support, even from individuals to big companies at this point. But we were still waiting to hear from SAG, and we were waiting because we were told not to submit anything, and we were waiting for the date to pass. And given we need the SAG approval to be able to move forward, and so we kind of determined that we wanted to have a cutoff date of this Friday, the 28th. Today is I'm filming to say whether or not forward production.
Okay,
didn't hear from.
So my previous source was correct. She filmed this. She did write and film this day of. I mean, I'd watched this before, but I just, as evidenced here. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was saying the right thing.
If you didn't hear from SAG. And the reason for this was severalfold. The most important of which is that, we are hiring a bunch of crew and cast during a strike where money is really tight. And we want to be able to assure them that they have a job. And if they don't have a job, we want to be able to allow them to keep wiffly waffling around until the very last minute and say, oh, we don't have a production. We want to be able to be very clear and concise. And we were very clear with SAG about that, and we were very clear with everyone about that fact. We know that productions, have weird things that happen even at the last minute, but this is sort of what we set out, and Nebula agreed, everyone agreed that this was sort of the best way to be fair and try to give SAG as much time as possible, but also for ourselves allow our cast and crew to be able to do what's best for them, especially since they are marginalized folks who often don't get as many chances in this industry. July 26th occurs, that was this past Monday, hopefully it's July 26th, whatever this past Monday was. Didn't hear anything. So we emailed on Tuesday, didn't hear anything. We called and emailed on Wednesday. Wednesday evening, and we get an email from our business representative. And at that point, that email said that we had a new business representative we had never spoken to before, and that we were asked to fill out our paperwork. The way it was sort of worded in the email, it made it sound like as if we had not submitted the paperwork, which we had, and my producer, Dr. Aaron McDonald, literally submitted all that paperwork within 30 minutes of receiving that email. It was all the same paperwork that we had already sent in, and we were ultra low budget production. Not like saying oh, we've decided to switch it. It was just like, oh yeah, you're an ultra low budget production, whatever. And it became very clear from that email that our business representative had not done anything, was passing us off to someone else, and it wasn't even fully aware of what our production was anymore, which was very, very frustrating. But we said, okay, what can we do? I emailed our new business rep, explained the situation, explained the urgency. We heard nothing. I tried calling. We heard nothing. And I said, well, now it's Thursday. It is very close to the wire for everything. And I decided, I'm not going to say where I live, but I currently now live within driving distance of Los Angeles. So I drove the 3 hours to Los Angeles that morning to go into SAG's office and to say, hey, what can we do to get this done? And wanting to be very understanding that SAG is dealing with, I want to be very clear, we, on every level of this, we are so understanding that SAG is dealing with so much right now. And
then why did you write and film this day of? And then assuming you even reviewed it before uploading it, you thought to yourself, yeah, that I want to have out there to represent my support of the strike. I'm not going to consult anybody involved with the union or the strike or any of the striking workers, who might be on my film. I'm not gonna run this by anybody who might be in the know, who might have some, more, like Jessie loves to talk about how, like, oh, I want to make sure everybody's represented. So why not consult a SAG actor or SAG actress that is on your film's cast who might have an opinion on this, who might be able to, who, or anybody in your cast and crew who has been involved with a union strike before and might be able to weigh in a little bit on whether or not releasing this at this time was a good idea. Because third generation union worker myself, I'm not a member of any union right now, but I have been in the past, and this does not this does not seem like something who is truly supporting the union would release as like their official statement during a time when is claiming to be in support of the union and the union workers who are on strike. And it's clear she never ran this by anybody who has been involved with a union strike before she released this. She released this for ego.
dealing with the strike, dealing with the passing productions, everything. We totally are understanding that. The thing is, we had our paperwork in 2 months ago, and we followed everything that we were told to do. So we wanted to be understanding of the busyness and hecticness of what's going on, but also the fact that we last minute coming in and saying, hey, fill out this paperwork for us. So I went into SAG with Trenton, by the way, who is the VP of Content Productions at Nebula, and I want to reiterate right here that everyone at Nebula has been so supportive of this project. And I'm not saying that because Nebula is funding the project or anything like that. Like if they aren't asking me to, everyone in Nebula has been so supportive of this. Like Trenton was there with me, he was making calls, he was showing up. I'll get further into the story, but he was there for me, and it was seen and it was felt that Nebula is just behind this production 100%. And I'm not saying that for anyone's benefit other than just the truth. And we went in and we spoke to
our business you're saying this so that your fans who haven't already joined Nebula will subscribe to Nebula and directly support your Nebula projects through the referral link in the description box of this video. That's why you keep bringing this up. I swear to God, that is the only reason you keep bringing this up over and over and over again. If it wasn't, why are you doing that? Like why? Just why?
Boss who came out and spoke to us personally, and we were like, look, we understand the situation, we know you're dealing with a lot. What can we do to get us approval by tomorrow, because we're going to get it done by tomorrow. And we've had it in well in advance. And we were told to our face that we were okay to go ahead as a short production. That it was, we were told that it all looked good, that that was going to be fine, and that she would speak to our business representative and make sure everything was cool. Awesome, great. We felt very reassured by that. She said we could even get possibly the same day. I went out to my car. Literally before I pulled away from my car, I got a call from our current business representative where we were told that the other business representative had left. It was just tossing things out at the last minute. And that we needed all of these specific paperworks in order to proceed and get us some information. And I said, cool, I understand you're dealing with a lot of stuff last minute. We've already submitted all the paperwork, but here, we'll send it to you again, informed, and let us know. And we were assured then that we would hear back within 24 hours about whether or not we would be approved. And to reiterate, Dr. Aaron sent in the paperwork for, I believe, the third or fourth time, 30 minutes within that call they have. Jump to the next day. This morning, we started getting calls from some of our crew being like, look, we haven't heard anything, and we've tried to keep people updated as best we can. We said this was going to be the cutoff day.
Again, she reminds us all that this is happening day of. And I'm not saying that to like come down on her for any reason, like, ego related or whatnot. It really highlights like what the hell was going through her mind when she, wrote this out, recorded it, and uploaded it. That this was a decision based purely on emotion. That this was her lashing out in anger because some paperwork got lost and in the shuffle of an ongoing strike, and shit is bananas in the middle of an ongoing strike.
A lot of crews like, look, we have other jobs lined up, and there's a few people that said, like, look, we have to accept a job or not by noon today. And that's as best we can do because we need to know if we can take that job or not. Like that's what they need a response.
And to be clear, by noon on Friday, we've been well within the 24-hour period that we had been told the day before by SAG-aftra.
And so I don't want to hold the job. It's not right and it's not fair to them to do that. So I just started calling. I called several times. Again, every time trying to be understanding. Emailed her a couple times. Called her boss a couple times. I'm just trying to be like, hey, look, this is the urgency. We spoke to you yesterday. This is the information. Like, what can we do? Nothing. And we heard nothing. Not an email response. Not a pickup of the voicemail. Not even like automated call. Nothing. Aaron and I continually drove into SAG-aftra and was speaking to people there. We were told that our business representative was in a meeting, then told she was working from home. Her boss that we had spoken to the day before was out and wasn't able to take any calls or anything. And so Aaron was trying to, right up to the last minute, talk to somebody. Finally, with I think like 15, 20 minutes to spare before noon, I called our representative's boss one last time. She picked up, and I was like, oh my God, thank heavens, we can talk to somebody. In that call, she kept interrupting me. I was not able to speak during the call. She dead named me, which, to be fair, I don't think was her intention. I think she used the name that was my dead name, which is very similar to my actual name. And I think she wouldn't have had that information. I think it was just because she didn't let me speak and be.
Now let me play this back at normal speed. Or do I want to play it back at drunk speed? Let's go with normal. Let's go with slightly drunk speed. Okay.
During the call, she dead named me, which, to be fair, I don't think was her.
She did this intentional thing because if you're trans, then you know that dead naming is the term used by other trans people to indicate speaking somebody's, previous name, the name, literally assigned at or shortly after someone's birth, the name our parents gave us. Now, the origin of the term dead naming is that during a period of, this was known to be especially prevalent in the 1980s and 90s, is like when a trans person died, even if their name had been legally changed, it was common enough for surviving family members to bury that person under their birth name, like even if their name had been legally changed like decades before. So the notion is that this is an intentional act. Like, you cannot unintentionally dead name a trans person. It is always an intentional act. It is typically a malicious act. Now, the reason I say it's, typically a malicious act, always intentional, is because, like, I don't know, I figure, like, early on enough, but, in someone's transition, I mean, there will be times when somebody calls you, Elizabeth, but you go by the name Patrick now, right? Okay. That's because because like they are still like thinking of you as Elizabeth, and they might catch themselves like right after or in the middle of the name, whatever. It's a thing that happens sometimes, without malice. But the but the fact is that um, dead naming is, especially in this situation that Jesse's describing, it would have to be intent and malicious. You know that's the reason it's called dead naming, is because it is intentional, typically maliciously so. But let's continue. Let's continue to see what Jesse describes.
Her intention. I think she kept interrupting me. I was not able to speak during the call. She dead named me, which, to be fair, I don't think was her intention. I think she used the name that was my dead name.
She did an intentional thing, but I don't think it was her intention to do the intentional thing.
Which is very similar to my actual
So she
name.
accidentally referred to Jesse by the name her parents gave her, which this office woman would have had no way of knowing.
During the call, she used the name that was my dead name, which is very similar to my actual name.
So she accidentally called Jesse something that, the name that her parents gave her, which is very similar to the name Jesse. Now, I'm not going to speculate on what that might be, but, the way that Jesse describes this incident, saying, oh, I couldn't get a word in, blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's a number of reasons this could be happening. First and foremost, as I said many times before already, that this is the middle of an active strike. Shit in the office at SAG is bananas right now. I don't even have to be, one of the office people at SAG to know this. I've been, like I said, I've been a union worker before. My dad was a union worker basically my whole life, that, at least the whole time that he was alive, and I was, concurrent, simultaneously, right? Was part of a nurses union. There was a strike. There have been people in my family striking since long before I was born. Okay, so shit gets bananas during a strike. Obviously, this woman from the office wanted to, say what she had to first to speed things along. Like, that's how these kinds of calls work. And Jesse is using this moment of, a complete accident, which even Jesse admits seems to have been within the realm of understandable. That doesn't make it okay, but it's understandable how this happened. And the only reason that she would describe the way that she did, as being an intentional, malicious act of dead naming, is to paint the union in a negative light. That's the only thing that makes any sense. She's using language that she knows her audience is very charged towards, that um, that will enrage her woke scolded audience, and now have a negative opinion of the union in question. Because, oh, sure, this may not describe many of the union workers under SAG, but, like, how good of a union can it be if it would employ this kind of person to deliberately dead name somebody? I'm like, well, even Jesse admitted that it wasn't deliberate, that it was an accident, but, like I said, naming implies intent. It implies intent. It implies typically malicious intent. you cannot accidentally dead name somebody without knowing, their, one's previous name. Without knowing that person's dead name, you cannot do that accidentally. Like, you have to know it in order for it to be what Jessie describes as dead naming. It's just, you know, I mean, if anything, this says to me that 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 I was in the right to pick a name that was, significantly different from my dead name to prevent this kind of thing from happening. Because like, I know how emotional I can be, so why would I pick a name similar enough to the name my parents gave me, wherein this sort of thing might accidentally happen and trigger some hard emotions. I mean, I'm not. People choose our names for whatever reason we choose our names, but it it definitely makes me feel a little bit better about my life choices in this, at least in this particular life choice, because I don't know. I've never had this happen to me accidentally before. This is very much a Jessie problem. This is very much a Jessie problem on somebody else.
And I think she wouldn't have had that information. I think it was just
There's a reason, that this office woman was, getting her piece out first. Perhaps, perhaps a little bit more aggressively. Shit is bananas right now, and I mean like aggressively and like being very, you know, like a step above assertive, right? Like a step above assertive. You're gonna want to like, get this all out first because again, this is the middle of an active strike. Shit is bananas. This woman as the, office person for SAG wanted to say this as, wanted to say this as quickly and as thoroughly as possible before proceeding with the meeting. So yeah, she had to say all of this first. That's part of how this works. I know it's been a while since Jessie has worked an office job, if she ever has indeed done so, but this is how office jobs work. Like, you have a meeting at the office. The person at the office says, you know, things first, and you are allowed to say your things. This one is just so out of touch with everything she's talking about right now.
and be able to say my name, that she didn't hear my name clearly. So I think it was just a mishearing that would have been cleared up if she allowed me to speak. And the fact that it happened by my dead name was just very unfortunate coincidence, but one that did not make the situation better. And I took it like, I'm not saying I was angry about it, but it was like, that's fun. It was not great to hear on the line. Going into all this, I'm already
Not saying that she was angry about this, but she began the video saying that this initially came about from a place of anger. Yeah. Sure, Jessie, we believe you. We believe that this was not angering.
stressing out a lot. But again, tried to be professional, tried to speak, tried to explain what was going on. This person on the phone call, the SAG-aftra representative, asked me to spell my production identities 7 times. Like literally, I spelled it 7 times. And
It can't be because you picked a quirky spelling.
I get it's a weird title, IDENTITEAZE. I did it slowly, but she asked me to say it several times. I had even submitted an application. This we knew we had.
Do you know how many people she spoke to between the call she had with you the previous day and the call she had with you earlier this day? Do you have any idea how many people she spoke to? At least a dozen. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee it that you are just one of dozens of people that this woman spoke to in that 48 hours. One of dozens. And not just in general, but through the SAG office. Like, I'm sorry that your little, short film for Nebula, just didn't really seem to stand out to her enough to remember all these little tiny details in the middle of an active strike when you are one of at least a couple of dozen people that she has spoken to in the previous 24 hours between, the meeting, she had with you, Jessie, the previous day, and the time you filmed this. There's just, like I said, one of at least a couple of dozen people that she spoke to. So what? So what? It's the middle of an active strike. Shit is bananas. Are you this fucking narcissistic that you... Oh, I hate this.
And just continually just like took time and wasted time. She asked me if I submitted the application, says, can I bring my producer Aaron into the call? Aaron jumped into the call. And finally she listened and she's like, oh, the person we spoke to yesterday. And I'm like, yes. I was trying to explain that if I had been allowed to speak.
Like, now she's got two people to give her frame of reference. Now she's got two people to give her frame of reference. Like, I'm sorry that your little, like, bright cyan glasses just don't stand out to her enough. Like, this is fucking Los Angeles we're talking about. Like, seriously, like, I don't know. Like, now she's got two people for a frame of reference. This is bringing her up to speed a little bit more easily. Like, that's just kind of how this all works. Like, if there's more than one person who was involved in the previous meeting, that's going to stand out a little bit more than a meeting with simply one person. Again, we've got a bleach blonde young woman with very twee glasses trying to work within the guidelines of a SAG-aftra strike in the middle of a strike. Like, I'm sorry, you're not the only person who has these, this handful of features. Certainly not the only single person she's talked to about a thing. But again, now there's two people. That now narrows down the frame of reference for this woman in the office. Like, it's just like if you have like 24 calls in a day, just ballpark. You have 24 calls in a day. At least, at least 18 of those, 24, at least 18 of those are going to be one person meetings. The remaining 6 of those are going to be 2 or more people. Now she has a smaller frame of reference to remember this conversation from the previous day. But no. We all gotta proceed with empathy when it's Jessie Gender. But when it's somebody that Jessie Gender has a problem with, oh, well, clearly this person is acting maliciously. Clearly this person, is just out to ruin Jessie's day. Doesn't that suck?
At this moment. And Aaron, I'm going to give credit to Aaron. She said what needed to be said, which was not anything mean, but just like, hey, we have people waiting on the line. This is where we try to be understanding of the situation. We know it's you're dealing with a lot. We are certainly desperately aware of that, and we want to acknowledge everyone's humanity in the situation. The fact that we have not been responded to, been ignored, been given the runaround, me being personally disrespected as a person in the call, we needed a response, which was then 15 minutes away. We can let these people know. And we gave that hard deadline. We even said, and so we gave the hard deadline. She said, we'll see what we can do. And so we hung up. We waited those 10 minutes, did 5 more. Call it. Because I'll be honest, I was like, and the job to know. They're literally pinging her as we were texting. So we had to suspend production. Also, as always, this very video that you're watching now.
Yeah, like I said, shit is bananas. There are other things that probably seemed more, like higher priority. And you know, that is up for the women in the office to decide. I'm not saying she made a good or a bad call. It's just, it was her call and she made it. And again, this sucks. This sucks. This is very upsetting, but this is not something that I would, you know, maybe before I was being medicated for my ADHD, especially when I was in my early mid 20s. I know Jesse's a little bit older than that, but like this. It was so recklessly impulsive to write this out, film it the same day, and then not consult anybody from the union, be it somebody in the office or just one of the actors in your employ, to review this before uploading it. That was that was maliciously irresponsible.
Now, I finally did hear back from our SAG representative several hours after the deadline that they said they would get back to us to tell us that we would have approval, to tell me in this current email that we still don't have approval, and the reason being is that we need to submit 2 more documents that I was expressly told in our call yesterday that I did not need to submit. One of them, for example, being a document saying that if we have nudity in our film, to describe the nudity and talk about how you're going to film it. And what I told her on the phone yesterday, and what I'll tell you now, is there is no nudity actually. And yesterday on the phone that document was not required. And by the way, the other document is if you have any.
Again, this is something that could have very easily slipped her mind, because shit's bananas. She's had at least 24 calls between the call that between the meeting that Jessie had with this woman the previous day, and the video call that Jessie and her producer had with this same woman on this day that she filmed. This woman has had at least 24 calls in between them. At least. I can guarantee it. I'm willing to put money on it that this woman had at least 24 calls in between those 2 days. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry she didn't, that her notes weren't as thorough.
Minors in your film, which we also do not have. So, yeah, very, very frustrating. The consistent miscommunication, and the very fact that even several hours after the deadline where they said they would get back to us with approval, we are not getting approval for stuff that we were told we didn't need. And so I want to be very clear about where my anger and frustration and disappointment and pain comes from. The reason I am upset is not necessarily because we had to suspend production.
Didn't she say at the beginning of this that she's not that she's no longer making this video from a place of anger, but just frustration and hurt? And now she admits that it's with anger. I'm pretty sure I saw, there were clearly some editing jumps in this between that point and this point. So, again, Jessie says as much truth as she thinks will help her.
I was kind of emotionally prepared for that being a if SAG wasn't prepared for that. I'm not gonna say I'm not just in that aspect, it does sadden me. But I was emotionally prepared for that. I would even be emotionally prepared if people said, we need more time, can't get it done this time. I would have been very frustrated, given that we had our second months ago and followed every single rule and tried to be as understanding as possible. I would be very angry and frustrated at that, but I would even understand that. The thing that gets me is the just deafening feeling of how no one cared. The unprofessionalism that I experienced, that my producer experienced, that Trenton experienced, the
unprofessionalism, which is that people are being swamped in the middle of a strike. Shit is bananas at the office. I'm sorry that this does not meet your standards, Jessie, but it is what it is. How can you not understand this?
Lack of care towards the cast and crew that we have on this production. I'm gonna be honest, I cannot tell you how heartbroken I am to have gone to this cast and crew who have put in so much passion work and tell them we have to suspend production. Not because, we screwed up, which we don't. Not because, someone said no, which, we'd understand, even if we would be disappointed. But because people just clearly did not take the time to care.
And like I said, I'm gonna take her claims that she got one time as she was supposed to with a pinch of salt. Like, she may or may not have, as has been noted by people on Twitter, has been noted by people who were once fans of Jessie's, including myself, but who just can't stomach her anymore for, because a number of traits have come to light, such as how she's just so egocentric to the point of at least bordering narcissistic, that um, she's willing to bend the truth if it will help her out. Um, but yeah, this is not somebody who, like, for somebody who goes on so much about, how we need to have empathy for each other and how we need to, feel for each other and remember the human experience and to be kind to one another. Like, she's being incredibly unkind. She's not displaying any sort of, empathy, be it intellectual or emotional, toward the position that the people in the SAG offices are in. Like, she's giving this experience the least charitable interpretation possible, because it is her project that is being affected. Yeah.
Going on during the SAG-aftra and WGA strikes. Like I said, Identities is a production that is going to be employing many marginalized people, queer folks, trans folks, women, many people who are amazing and so incredibly talented, but often aren't given as many
Can I
chances.
just say for a moment how much I hate the term BIPOC, and especially saying it like that. I don't know. It just, like, I know I'm not somebody by this, like included under this acronym. After all, I am not black. I mean, look at me. I have no indigenous people within my um, genetic ethnic background that I'm aware of. Last I knew, all my family came from the British Isles, but with perhaps some Slavic in there. There's some questioning on my corner, on my Tassos side, the corner side, um, but it just, it not only does it just sound kind of stupid, but by truncating it into an acronym, I don't know. I feel like it kind of like erases the personhood for peoples of color. You know, like it lets people, like, by speaking it as an acronym like that, it just, like I said, it just feels like it is removing a sense of personhood from the term. Because when you say, black and indigenous peoples of color, you are reminded that they're people. But when you say BIPOC, like, you have to be intimately familiar with the acronym. Remember that, there is some personhood in there.
In the Hollywood system. And I'm so proud of them. And it has been said by way more articulate and in the know people than myself. The reason that these strikes are going on is not for the high paid actors, the high paid writers, the high paid people in Hollywood. It is for the working class people, the people who are often the marginalized, who don't get the chances. People are fighting because they want to have the people who aren't given those chances, who aren't given the chance to be paid well when they even do get a chance, fighting for them to be respected as human beings, to be artists, to pour their heart out and show their creativity and be able to do so safely and comfortably, as they deserve to be. That's why all of this is important. And so to feel that, someone at the SAG-aftra offices just didn't care. And now, I'm very glad that a few folks are able to have jobs during the now time that they're not going to be filming Identities, but the predominant amount of those folks that had put off time, had put on their passion, are now not going to have work during that week. And we have made a commitment, by the way, that while we can't pay everyone's bills, if anyone does need, if you're part of the cast and crew of entities, if you do need help during that week and don't have other work, we were happy to pay your groceries for that week. So we have made that commitment. That's going to come out of our budget for that week. Not to mention the deposit that we put in our location and all the other stuff. This is going to cost us money on that front. It is frustrating to me to see, we'll talk the talk. We're here for the workers. We're defending the work. How the system doesn't care for the people that it's saying that it's fighting for. SAG-aftra, the people that, at least that we experienced. I'm not saying I'm speaking for all of SAG-aftra. This is not SAG-aftra as an organization. We experienced. It was very clear there was lack of care, and that the priority was given to places like A24 or other not part of this standard studio system.
It's bananas. Like, while there may be indie studios like A24 and all that who seem to be getting higher priorities in this, again, I can guarantee you that there are smaller films under the A24 banner that have experienced something at least more similar to what Jessie's going through with this postponement of filming, than the bigger projects under that banner. Because I don't know, I'm not saying this is good, or anything. It definitely sucks to be on a smaller project that might be getting put on the back burner, but again, like, the bigger projects under the A24 banner are prioritized because, again, I'm not saying this makes it okay, but they're being prioritized, even if very slightly, because they do have more money behind them that will guarantee pay for the actors and writers on the staff who are with the unions. I mean, hopefully there's regardless of the unions, but that's why it's getting union up. That's why being given like approval from the union. There is a little bit more money behind, at least a little bit more money behind it than Jessie's thing. So yeah, like, that does mean it's going to stand out a bit more, and that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't mean that they are right to necessarily prioritize these, but that is the that's unfortunately that's what makes it stand out the most to these people at the union offices, is and like I said, I can guarantee that there are smaller productions under the A24 banner that are getting similar back burnerish treatment to Jessie's project, for the simple fact that it is a smaller production. It is a smaller project. There are not as many big names behind it, in one way or the other, so it doesn't stand out as much as paperwork, especially in the middle of a strike where shit is already bananas, will get misplaced, might even be outright lost. People's faces and names are not going to immediately register when it's just one meeting. Yeah. like she's acting like this is like a personal attack on her and her own vanity project. And that's just why this sickens me. That's just why this video sickens me, that I am correct in thinking that if Jessie thought she could get away with it and still be able to make these like little short films that she obviously wants to make, she would scab in a heartbeat if she thought she could get away with it. If she thought she could keep John Delancey in her cast and get away with it, she would scab for this movie, because this is all very self-centered. This is a very this is a very egocentric stance that she has, and she can couch this as like, oh well, no, this is about these specific people in the office that I had to deal with. I'm like, no, not if you are coming at this from a position of empathy, because now you're making it that this was all about your experience without taking a moment to sit there and think about, like, is this even happening to other people? Because now, like I said, like it basically outs her as having a very self-centered position in making this video and making the statement that she has, because she's not even taking a moment to sit back and think, is this happening with other people? Is this happening with other office representatives at SAG? No, she's making this very personal because that's what she cares about in getting this done, in completing this little short film she's doing.
Budget things. That during this moment when SAG has stopped these big budget productions that don't care for the workers, they take the time to approve, independent productions, but productions that star folks like Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, done by studios like A24, which I love, by the way. But they are willing to go out of their way to approve those productions. But the smaller budget productions are trying to make a living at this work.
Again, like I said, like this is, it sucks that money talks in Hollywood, but when you've got a movie with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway in it to stand out more to the people in the office as something to rush along. But like I said, I can guarantee that there are smaller productions under the A24 banner that are, kind of being, pushed to the back burner because that's what SAG did. Like, I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm saying that it makes it make sense. That this is not that. I mean, yeah, you could argue that, that just shows all the more reason that, this is a systemic issue with, marginalized, peoples. And I'm saying, yeah, but this is also clear that it's not a personal attack on Jessie's production. That, yeah, this is, a, probably a bit more widespread than Jessie's video gives the impression of understanding. I'm sorry, I'm at a point where I don't think she fully understands this.
The ones that just get flatly ignored to our face. It's not even that we were ignored just in the lost bureaucracy of the system. When we were literally talking to someone, when we were on a phone call or in the room.
When you were in the room or on the phone call with somebody, because, like I said, this woman in the office had at least 24 people between the day before and the day, the period, the time of the day when Jessie, was on the video call with her before she made this video. That woman at the office for SAG had at least 24 calls, and meetings in between that day and this day. I'm sorry that, she didn't put together that she had had you in her office the day before when it was just you. But like I said, people remember things that stand out more in their mind. If you have 24 calls in a day and 18 of those calls are with one person, but 6 of them are with 2 people, you're going to be more likely to remember that 6 calls with 2 people than you will remember the details of the 12.5 calls with one person. That's just how the human mind works. Something has to be a little bit more unusual to really stand out. And I'm sorry, Jessie, like, I mean this in the best way, but you're in that, range of cis-passing enough while also androgynous enough that you're just not going to stand out in the mind of somebody in Los Angeles. I say this as somebody who lived in Los Angeles for about a year and a half. Like, you have to have an appearance that really stands out, and your little, twee cyan sunglasses with your bleach blonde hair that's not to somebody in Los Angeles, especially in the film industry somehow. Even though like they're working with the actors union, you're just not going to stand out on your own. It's just not going to happen. This is not how people work. That's definitely not how Los Angeles works. Like I said, you have 24 meetings and or phone calls over, over the course of, let's say, approximately a full work day, because, we'll assume like 9 to 5 hours in the office, say it was like, say the first call was at like, say the meeting was at like 11 the previous day, and her call was like 11 or so, on the day she filmed this. She has a minimum of 24 other meetings and calls with people. About 18 of those are going to be with one person. The rest are going to be with 2 or more people. The human mind remembers things that are just out of the ordinary enough to make an impression. And like I said, I'm sorry, Jessie, but you're in that range of just cis-passing, but just androgynous enough that even in Los Angeles, you're not going to stand out on your own. You're just not going to stand out on your own. That's just how it works. That's just how the human mind works, much less how Los Angeles works. You're not going to stand out on your own. Me, I might stand out on my own. But that's because I'm 11 and left to my own devices, I dress very eccentrically, so, I've always managed to stand out on my own, even when I don't intend to, so.
Room with someone, and that the focus is on being able to get back into that system, to just get back into the system, and certainly pay the workers more, but to just keep that system going instead of productions like ours, which are trying to do something new with Nebula, which is a streaming service and a company and a group that is creator owned, is trying to do something new and allowing.
And listen, if you sign up for Nebula through Jessie's link in the description box below, she will get like direct kickback from that.
The artists themselves to make the decisions instead of giving that care and attention. It wasn't even it was just a lack of care, and that hurts way more and angers me way more. And it is also telling, and this is where I get particularly angry, that SAG is going out and asking influencers like myself to follow guidelines.
At the beginning of this video, she said she wasn't proceeding with anger, but she's actively angry now.
In order to support them, like not doing particular cosplay or doing podcasts about struck work. But when an influencer like myself comes to them and says, hey, I have a project that can support the workers that you say you are advocating for, we get ignored. Whether or not this is the intention, what it feels like is them saying, we want you to support us, but just to be clear, you are beneath us. Whether or not that is the intention, that is definitely the emotional message that has been received. If you're going to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. And I did not feel that, at least from the people that we dealt with. Who I did feel just, it's so much. And to wrap out, I want to be very clear. Identities will see what you do because I'm inside of you, not just on I can't help, but just be in a moment of sadness and frustration and anger at the thing, the most subversive thing that we can express. I wanted to share my joy, the joy of the arts working with.
I don't care anymore. Stop sharing the screen. I don't care anymore about Jessie talking about shit that should be apparent to basically everybody. If, like I said, if you've ever dealt with like office meetings before, this is just I don't know. I might have had a thought to wrap this up with, but it's getting to be about that time that I need to pack up all my nonsense from what's it called, that I've been crocheting with. I'm gonna finish this last motif before I pack up, but there we go. 15-minute notice to leave Barnes and Noble, so I get to do that, and okay, so I'm going to, like I said, wrap up at Barnes and Noble. I'm not going to stream that portion of the thing today because it's boring. It's boring. It's just like me putting my crap back in my backpack and all that, and I need to pee before I go. So I would like to not be that guy who is holding up um, the closing of the store because he must pee. All right, so I will try this again at another time. I don't know. Um, yeah, I might try this again while I'm still in my incredibly unstable situation as I've described it to many people. Um, but uh, but yeah. Uh, uh, as I tend to say, um, be sure to wear your sunscreen, take very good care of yourselves, and have exactly the kind of day you deserve. Uh, Nostach, we'll